So one of the things that I really love about Mushoku Tensei is the balance between realism and the magicalness, the majesty of the world itself, the world building, the character building, and the sense of wonder with magic, swords, shields, dragons, mystical creatures, and this teleportation, reincarnation, and this fun mixture of this fantasy world with all these crazy things going on, but then also having the realism of how characters would respond if being reincarnated or teleported into an alternative world. And one of the things that I really love about this new character, technically not new because they were introduced into season 1, but people knew very little about this character, but properly introduced a better knowing of what this character is, and I'm going to shorten the name to Nana, or Nanahoshi, but Nana's just easier for me, them being introduced, is that they have a very different way of looking at this world that they have been teleported to. They are not a reincarnation, but a teleportation, just a straight teleportation as their physical body, and they cannot age. So they are stuck in their current age, body, everything like that. So they are in a situation that is much more different than Rudy, who is being reincarnated and given a second chance and reliving life in this fantasy world. But Rudy doesn't want to go home. Nana wants to go home. And that's one of the things that I always found very interesting about the story, is how different characters respond to different situations based on little tweaks to their journey. And also Sylphiette's response to finding out about the incident and some of the context not being put in there, and their response being very realistic in being quite upset. And then once the context is given, Sylphiette is a bit more grounded. But of course, the relationship between Rudy and Sylphiette is also just something that I really love. It's very grounded in realism, and that's the thing. I love the realism in how characters respond to different situations, the strengths, the weaknesses, how Rudy is a flawed character. And one of the criticisms that I constantly see within the anime community, I wouldn't say Mushoku Tensei community, but within the anime community, is this constant thing of, why are people defending Rudy? There is no defending Rudy. Rudy is a flawed character. Rudy has done good things and he's done bad things. And that's the nature of being human, is that we do good things and we do bad things. And the most important thing is that we learn from those mistakes and we become a better person. It's one of the funny things that I constantly see in my comment sections is these snarky remarks of, can't wait for the next episode, of not criticizing Rudy's bad behavior. And it's like, that's because we don't need to bring it up every single episode about his flaws. You bring it up once and that's it, and that's the end of it. Unless he does another mistake in the next episode, then you bring it up. But I just kind of find it funny that some people only want to focus on the negative aspects of Rudy and not balance it between the goods and the bads. And that is something that I've always tried to do throughout the series, is weigh out the positives and the negatives. You look at the Paul incident with Rudy and Paul and how their relationship was built and how they had a misunderstanding because they both failed to communicate because of their own flaws, and that resolving itself by them coming back and saying, you know what, let's just clean the slate, let's communicate properly and approach this in a different way. And that's one of the things that I really love, is how you can see the realism in the characters. Paul having his drinking problem, him having to overcome that, and him building on that relationship with Rudy, and then Rudy also having to improve on himself throughout those different stages. And you see that, especially with the relationship between Fitz and Rudy. Fitz still struggling to have that communication with Rudy, being able to confide and say, hey, it's me, Sylphiette, from your past, and how she is really struggling to communicate that due to her shyness, her scaredness, and she's constantly worried about other people possibly being in a relationship with Rudy. One of the first ones was Elinalise, straight away panicked, thought that they were a couple. Nanahoshi being introduced and them holding hands and speaking in a completely foreign language. Instantly, Fitz panics and thinks that there's something going on. That insecurity is realistic. But one of the other things that I've seen is people saying that Sylphia is simping too hard for Rudy. And it's why I like to refer it to as a honeymoon stage, is when new couples get together. They go through a honeymoon stage. Now you could say, well, Sylphia and Rudy aren't together and they've been friends for a long time. Yes, but they've been reintroduced. So it's basically like a brand new reintroducing, so they've kind of entered that new fresh stage of, as I like to refer to it, as a honeymoon stage. And you've also got to realize that Sylphiette has built this image of Rudy from the past in her mind, and has built it and built it and built it and built it, and she's really put Rudy on a very high pedestal of what Rudy was like, because Rudy did help her through a difficult situation. Because of her hair color back then, it led to a lot of bullying, it led to a lot of isolation, and it meant that she struggled to make friends. Rudy was the only one that was willing to make a friend and defend her, though of course Rudy thought it was he, and there was a lot of interesting back and forth between their relationship until he realized Sylphiette has a reason to really put Rudy on a high pedestal because of his magical skills, and then also for the fact that he stuck up for her and befriended her when others would turn against her. And now being reintroduced and seeing Rudy even stronger with new skills, having these communication skills, having all these people that he can just bring to the side, has led to Sylphiette having this very high standard of Rudy. Like, Rudy sits there and says, oh yeah, I did this weird thing where I locked 2 girls up in a room and tied them down. Sylphiette's a little bit skeptical, but then says, oh, well, I didn't do that. And then instantly Sylphiette tries to look for the positive. And that's the thing. People have a tendency to try and look for the positive when they feel more highly of someone, but if they're negative, then they'll always try and look for the negative aspect. It's one of those things, like you use social media as an example. If someone really doesn't like you, they're always going to find the negative. No matter what, even if you are in the right or the wrong, they're going to instantly try and look for the negative, and people will believe what they want to be true, not what to be true. And so people will warp their own mind and sense of how they see things. Like, it's like that saying, is the glass half empty or half full? It's that sort of positive or negative. And because of the relationship that Sylphiette has with Rudy, she is looking for the positive in Rudy. Same situation could happen if, say for example, a certain individual boy, Cliff, was always looking for the negative in Rudy when they first met at the academy, because Cliff had built this image of Rudy in a negative mindset. So instantly once they met, they went, oh, clearly he's a fake, clearly he's a phony, clearly there's some shenanigans going on. But then once Cliff properly met Rudy, got to understand the real person behind it, suddenly that attitude changed, and now there's a bit more of a positive mindset. So I just wanted to point it out because it's one of my own personal experiences that I've learned, even in myself, reflecting on my own behavior growing up for many years, is that when you dislike someone, you have a tendency to always look for the negative in something. While if you're really close to someone, you highly respect them, you'll try and give them the benefit of the doubt. And I think that's one of the things as us humans are very grounded in, and I think that's a realistic aspect of Sylphiette and Rudy's relationship. But overall with the episode itself, I really love the episode. I love the introduction in the Nanahoshi and how they did it, and how Rudy responded to seeing her again, and then kind of building an understanding of who she is, how she got into that predicament, and the relationship between her and Orsted, and Rudy getting a better understanding, and then also Rudy having his head on a certain lap and it being a little bit reminiscing. There also was a really good Easter egg in there as well. And I'm not going to spoil what it means, but all I'm going to say is that them showing the rat was a very nice subtle detail. So for light novel readers, you know what it means, but for anime only fans, you'll just have to find out what that means. And I think it was a really nice little touch. I think they deliberately highlighted on that just to kind of tease. They give that light novel fans something fun to kind of look at. So I think the episode was absolutely phenomenal. I really loved the detail. I really loved the characters and how everything was done and the animations. But I mean, as a light novel reader, I knew what was coming. So seeing animated and it all played out and how it flows and how the characters respond and just those details, I think just really brought to life, and I'm really looking forward to the future episodes where more of this does develop. So again, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think of this episode? What do you think of the relationship between Fitz, or Sylphiette, and Rudy? And do you agree or disagree with my analysis on that kind of relationship of the half glass half empty, or half full, half empty kind of analysis of positive versus negative based on those relationships? So again, if you like this video, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.